Hey friends, welcome to Holy Week. I have been reflecting for a time on the passage of the crucifixion, which is a perfect passage for this week. I get to share it with a group of Chinese college students, and I just have been meditating on it and just have found it so powerful. So just to share in that for a few minutes, it's a long passage, so I won't have many questions for you, but listen together as we share in Luke's version of the crucifixion. And this is where the story begins, or continues actually. Now, there were two others, criminals, that were brought with Jesus to the place where they were to be put to death. When they reached the place called Calvary, they crucified Jesus and put the criminals on each side of him, one on his right and one on his left. And Jesus said, "Father, forgive them. They do not know what they are doing." Now the soldiers divided his clothes and cast lots, and the people looked on. But some of the rulers sneered, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Christ, the chosen of God." And the soldiers mocked him, offering him sour wine, and then said, "If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself." There was a plaque that had been put above him, which read in three languages, Hebrew, Latin, and Greek, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals blasphemed him, saying, "If you are the Christ, save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked the first, saying, "Don't you fear God? For you are under the same condemnation, and we are under it justly, for the rewards of our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." And then he said to Jesus, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus said to this criminal, "Assuredly I say to you, today you'll be with me in paradise." From the 6th to the 9th hour, the whole earth was covered in darkness. At the 9th hour, the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple ripped in two. And Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit," and breathed his last. When the centurion saw this, he glorified God and said, "Surely this is a righteous man." When the crowd saw this, they drew near and then beat their breasts and returned. But those who had accompanied him and the women who had accompanied him from Galilee stood at a distance and observed these things. It's such an incredible passage of Scripture. And I just was struck with the first thing that Jesus said from the cross. And I wondered, what else could Jesus have said other than, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing"? I mean, he could have cried out in pain, right? I would have expected that, or yelled, or been angry, any possibility. But you don't see that. You also don't see Jesus responding to the people that are ridiculing him and condemning him from the ground below him. Like when the rulers of the people scoffed at him and sneered and said, "He saved others, let him save himself." Isn't it interesting they said that? This means that they recognized that Jesus had done mighty works. They recognized his miracles. And what will we learn about him? That they chose not to respond to them at all, but to sneer at the one whom they believed had done mighty works. What else? I mean, could Jesus have responded to them? Of course he could have, but he didn't. What do you learn about Jesus? That he didn't respond to those guys that sneered at him. And they said, if he is the Christ, the chosen one of God. Clearly, they knew who he claimed to be. Isn't that a remarkable thought? They knew it, sneered at it, scoffed at it, and yet refused to make any change in their own lives. And the soldiers made an offering to him, like an offering to a god, right? Make an offering of sour wine. And then also scoffed at him, saying, "If you're the King of the Jews, save yourself." And apparently they weren't interested in being saved. The criminal blasphemed him, saying, if you are the Christ, save us, yourself and us. So all these different voices against him, and Jesus doesn't respond to any of them. What can we learn about Jesus? That he doesn't respond to scoffing, doesn't respond to mocking, doesn't respond to blaspheming words. He doesn't respond to any of them. But the other criminal does respond to the first criminal. He responds saying, don't you fear God? For you are under the same condemnation, and we are under it justly for the reward of our deeds. Isn't that incredible? That the second criminal defends Jesus in the eyes of what the first one has said. When the first one blasphemes him, he rebukes him, saying those words. What might you learn about the second criminal by this? What might you learn about Jesus? That the first person he responds to from the cross is the second criminal. First he says to the crowds, to everyone, Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing, saying, Father of the crowds. And then he says to the second criminal, assuredly I say to you today, you'll be with me in paradise. After the second one has said to him, remember me, remember me. I just find Jesus' responses here remarkable. Because I don't know about you, but I think that many times in life we encounter people that say slurring or mocking or difficult things, or we encounter hardship in language, in what people say or do around us. And what a remarkable testimony of Jesus, right? That he forgives them all. First of all, I mean, that's remarkable too, in and of itself. Be good to practice some of that, right? But then also, not only does he forgive them, but then he responds in such a gracious way to the second criminal. And did you notice the amazing supernatural things that were going on, natural, supernatural stuff happening in the world, that the whole earth is covered with darkness? I mean, have you seen that language before? The whole earth is covered with darkness from the 3rd to the 6th to the 9th hour. The whole thing. And then the sun is darkened, and then the veil is ripped in two. I mean, what details are in Luke's account of this? And then Jesus cries out in a loud voice and breathes his last after saying, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. I found great encouragement in this word this week as I was reflecting on how Jesus responded to crucifixion at the very beginning of it without any anger or upset, and versus how I've responded to pandemic with much anger and much upset. And so I was just struck with that, and I was struck with his willingness to forgive and forgiving others that do things unjust. And there's lots of injustice in my mind happening in this season. And so a lot of forgiveness is necessary. So where do you connect in with this scripture today? Where do you find yourself in the scripture? What do you find encouraging from the fact that Jesus offered himself in this manner for you and for me? How do you relate to what the first criminal said, the blaspheming one, and to what the second one said, who rebuked the first and then sought Jesus' comfort and presence in his life? Where do you find yourself? Which character do you connect with the most? And what is Jesus speaking into your life today as you ponder this week the glorious gift of life offered to you and to me because he died to set us free? Blessings on you. Have a great day. You take care. Thanks for checking in.